So this is happening. Hey there, I'm Megan, a freelance paranormal investigator and researcher of over 25 years, and welcome to Paranormal Potpourri, the show where we mix the ordinary and the extraordinary to uncover the strange, the mysterious, and the downright weird. The scent profile for today is serviceberry and peanuts. So take a deep breath and let's get into it. So there I was, laying prone on a massage table, contemplating every life choice that brought me to this precise moment in time and space. I like to reconfigure the layout of the drop ceiling tiles to better center the 3 fluorescent light fixtures every time I go to my energy session. There's an air vent that touches the edge of one of the lights, but there's like a tile that's in between it and the light opposite, and that vent is the bane of my existence. I mentally curse out the builder once a month as I stare unblinkingly while receiving my session summary from probably the best person I've been blessed to encounter in my life, my energy healer, Michelle. Michelle and I have been seeing each other for once a month for the last 5 years, and she will deny until the end of her days that she was my inspiration for starting down this incredibly weird spiritual path. But she literally told me the name of the center I took all of my courses from. So there, Michelle, it's now officially documented and witnessed by others. Our journey together has been unique. I remember a few times that I could tell that she wanted to throttle me while trying to smash my stubborn blockhead against any wall she could get close to get the messages to finally click. They never did, and I'd prance my way out of her healing space only to show up a month later going, Michelle, you will never guess what I figured out. And it was just me regurgitating the messages from the last session or the session prior to that session. And she would just stare at me in what I can only assume is a total consuming blind rage. I make sure to tip her extra when I catch that particular gaze starting to settle in. These sessions have evolved from what I would consider gentle parenting to full-out PhD dissertations that require us to ask her Google Nest to define words that we don't know that she has written out in my notes. Nevertheless, we persist. And I tell her monthly, I don't understand why I pay her for this fucked up weird shit we get into. And then she argues back that she needs to charge me more for continuously getting her involved in that aforementioned fucked up shitstorm. We make the perfect pair. You're probably wondering, Megan, where does this all lead to? And this could just be a very convenient and very well-placed plug for you to go visit Michelle Hall at Lux Spa in De Pere, Wisconsin. You should know by now how this shit works, because ain't nothing a coincidence. I came prepared for this particular energy session. I brought notes. I had my thoughts scrawled out on a lined Post-it note, and I was ready, ready to get down to business. This should have been the first red flag of the session. I was in the midst of researching for this particular episode and had noticed some odd signs and potential messages showing up while reading articles, and I wanted some clarification. So one of my points to bring up was, what are the meanings behind the messages and signs I've been getting while researching for the podcast? I've asked questions like that before, and I usually get the standard, "You already know the answers, you stupid little mortal. Stop asking such fucking stupid questions and just accept shit as it is." I wish I was exaggerating, but these spirit guides that come in show me no mercy. Michelle read off messages from 3 individuals that I had been doing intensive deep dives into, and I felt myself melting into the massage table. A high-pitched whine filled my ears as I realized that I was being watched. It's probably bad enough that what I was researching may have flagged my name on several federal and possible several international databases, but knowing that these people were aware of me and understood what I was doing was equal parts deeply unsettling and also kind of phenomenal. In my line of work, I'd call this a pretty big confirmation point that maybe what I'm looking into and presenting to you right now is a lot more real and tangible than what we may have previously thought. In today's society, the concept of magic has become highly stylized, making for aesthetically pleasing Instagram layouts and a multitude of TikTok videos. You've got your Chris Angel types, the Penn and Tellers with their infuriating sleight of hand tricks, and weirdly, just a fuck ton of pine cones. I see hundreds of posts for begin your magical journey, and it's all just pine cones and acorns and wood cut birch bark drink coasters, and I just don't know when that started to become a thing. But getting back to the root of magic itself takes some digging and deciphering through all of that new age mystic and gurus that claim to know how to get in touch with that quote unquote brimming well of magic. Simply put, magic is the application of beliefs, rituals, or actions in the belief that one can manipulate natural and supernatural beings and forces. So that definition makes the trick that your weird uncle would do at family gatherings of like yoinking a nickel from out behind your ear and then saying, "Did you even wash behind there?" even more unnerving. We're going to treat this episode like a fine dining experience, multiple courses, copious amounts of alcohol, and strategically placed low lighting. I need to get you prepared before the entree comes out, so enjoy this smattering of hors d'oeuvres I've ordered for us. The private chef that I've hired has worked tirelessly on them. First out the door is how we can distinguish and label magic into separate categories based on its usefulness to the practitioner. You've got your white magic, which is used in a selfless or for helpful purpose. Gray magic is neutral, not performed for any specific benevolent reasons, but also not completely hostile practices either. Black magic has historically textually been used for selfish, harmful, or evil purposes, which is its counterpart to white magic. To quote Phil Hine, like many other aspects of occultism, what is termed to be black magic depends very much on who is doing the defining. Low magic is based in the natural world, and it's associated more with peasants and the use of it in folklore or witchcraft. Witchcraft and sorcery tend to stake a claim in the category of low magic. And high magic, which is also known as ceremonial or ritual magic, involves lengthy and detailed rituals, sophisticated paraphernalia, fancy stuff. Most of the Western concepts we have of magic still cling to the belief of corresponding or connecting with the unknown occult force that seemingly permeates throughout our universe and beyond. Magic nowadays is seen as a personal development, a spiritual response to stress. The order of operations within the rituals remain unchanged for the most part, and the process of going through the steps can be cathartic and provide a deeper sense of relief. So what I've gathered is that most of us chilling out in the spiritual neighborhood have a lot of anxiety and a desperate need to be in control of just one small aspect of our lives. So in this episode, we're going to be focusing more on high or ceremonial magic and how some of its practitioners used it to fulfill, let's call it particular needs throughout this episode. The one theme that will be quite evident is in this form of magic is the use of the Tree of Life. This is a tool practitioners use to organize and categorize multiple mystical concepts. Another nickname for it is the conceptual filing cabinet. And if it looks anything like my filing cabinet at work, God bless the person who searches through that for a specific form or document, because I can barely find a folder in it. The Tree of Life is composed of 10 spheres called Sephiroth, which, yes, is also the name of the villain character in the Kingdom of Hearts video game series. And these spheres are all connected by 22 paths. The Sephiroth are represented by planets, and those planets are then subdivided into the 4 classical elements. You've got fire, earth, water, and air. The 7 classical planets, which are the celestial bodies you're able to see with your naked eye: Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and all 12 zodiacs. And for all you youngins listening in, if your special someone asks you if you know your time of birth and the city you were born in, run. This convoluted magical dumping ground is a way for you to map out your own spiritual universe, plan out future astral travel destinations, find out which god or goddess one needs to invoke and their intended purpose, and get the latest deals and coupons worth up to 40% off market retail pricing. Unfortunately, you can't physically travel through all 22 individual paths and bounce around the various Sephiroths, but your body of light can. This is another important aspect of ceremonial magic and its way of interpreting how one interacts with natural and supernatural forces. We can only do so much in our electrified jelly meat sacks, so it's time for our quasi-material self to step up to the challenge. I've listened to enough Honest Guys meditation videos on YouTube to get a decent grasp on how our astral selves like to have a grand time on their adventures. Continuing on with our feast of knowledge, we need to take a moment to parse through some of the various terms that get lumped into the greater quote, magic category. Who knew the world of magic extended farther than one sweaty guy in way too much polyester crafting really sick looking balloon worms at your friend's 7th birthday party? Now, if you wouldn't mind giving this outrageously cartoonish plastic flower in my lapel here a good sniff, I'd appreciate it. Whoever started renaming things like the conceptual filing cabinet and intellectual wastebaskets needs to be given some sort of literary award. The intellectual wastebasket we're rifling through now is occultism, a category of esoteric or supernatural beliefs and practices that generally fall outside the scope of organized religion and science. These are qualities or properties that have no known rational explanations. I'd like to imagine there's a bunch of PhD havers just kind of taking a look at the topics, not quite knowing what to call them, and then just going, Kobe, into the occult trash can of ideas. Occultism is probably the widest umbrella term to cover the oodles and oodles of beliefs and practices that don't fit the cookie cutter shaped versions of established religious and scientific practices. Mysticism always conjures up images of incense smoke, wild patterned silks, and Madame Zeroni talking about how I have to carry her up a mountain and sing a song to like a pig or something like that. Mysticism is all about experiences, namely religious ones. It's the ecstatic, unitive experience of becoming one with God, with the absolute, with all that exists, relating to any kind of ecstasy or altered states of consciousness. The term has been described quite like me as, quote, problematic but indispensable. Can one have a legitimate mystical experience while under the influence of hallucinogens, as that is considered an altered state of mind? And if you're my parents or my elementary school dare officer, I have never in my life touched a jazz cigarette. What about the time I saw Harry Styles in 2021 and it felt like I was levitating the entire time? I'm such a dork. I actually put up a think piece about the, quote, transcendent religious experience I had while Harold sang What Makes You Beautiful. Or how about when Hozier sung me into a euphoric trance like the siren that he is just this past June? In mystic states, we become both one with the absolute and we become aware of our oneness. Quick! Oh my God. Quick, hide the apple bong. We are about to get raided by the DEA for this righteous, dank nugget of knowledge. Finishing off the starters of tasty tidbits, the chef has procured for us a plate of Western esotericism, or simply put, Western mystery tradition. This concept sort of smushes together both occultism and mysticism, chews it up and spits it out like a mama bird feeding its babies regurgitated worms of enchanted worldviews. You'll find out the more you dive into the world of paranormal and supernatural research that scholars just can't quite agree on complete categorizations of topics or even how to properly define events and experiences that people are definitely seeming to be having in their lives. Scholars still debate what exactly determines esotericism, making it an Ouroboros of irony. Esoterists place great emphasis on human imagination and mediations, rituals, symbolic images as tools to gain access to different worlds and differing levels of reality. Esoterics stress the importance of mediation through contact with non-human entities, which honestly could be a multitude of possibilities. What sets esotericism apart from occultism and mysticism is that their practitioners deal in concealment and secrecy. The farther you move through their system, the more information becomes readily available to you. And it's not like you're just going to keep that sort of information to yourself. You're obviously going to give a mouse a cookie this situation, because if you've got super cool rituals, then you're going to want to invite people to join to see what they're about. And of course, if you invite people to join, then you might want to think of fun costumes to wear. And if you're going to wear really cool costumes, then you got to come up with some really long-winded name for your new secret society. Hold on. There's an idea brewing here. Calling these groups secret societies is a fairly modern term. So if you're looking to make yours have a certain je ne sais quoi, you could call it a magical organization or a magic order. These are just groups that are created to practice, teach, and initiate members into ceremonial forms of occult magic. And from personal experience, you too can create your own secret society in under 15 minutes if you've got a decent internet connection and a Canva profile. Check out more on the Facebook page and Instagram if you are curious. The podcast chef has spent hours sweating and swearing over the cooktop to develop the next few dishes for our feasting pleasure. The things I've heard this man say would curl the straightest of hairs and make a room full of nuns blush. I'm going to do my best to point out a lot of reoccurring themes in the following magical organizations because honestly, they're all pretty much the same concept with a fancy flourish weaved through. Think of them of like an Uncrustable. Same weird round disc of peanut butter, but this one has strawberry filling in it instead. I wouldn't call myself a linguistics expert by any means. I do enjoy learning little tidbits here and there about where words and phrases originate. Something that is completely airtight and impermeable that prevents any sort of gases, liquids, or solids from passing in or out is called hermetically sealed. It's a metaphor, just like the kind John Green employs when his characters place an unlit cigarette between their lips. And that phrase harkens back to the age of alchemic practices when one would safeguard any and all esoteric knowledge from those who have not been initiated or reach a particular level in their search for life's great answers. Hermeticism, a philosophical and religious tradition, covers a wide range of esoteric knowledge like alchemy, astrology, and theurgy. Let's consider this to be the granddaddy of any and all secret societies. So here's the first of many recurring concepts. The idea of a primeval form of divine wisdom that is only revealed to the most ancient of sages. Now, that's what I call hiding information behind a paywall. Secret orders are huge on you must be this tall to ride this ride when it comes to the grand answers of the universe and beyond. And are there individuals out there that might actually have achieved some unknown level of esoteric knowledge? Like when that giant Monty Python-esque cartoon hand of God the Almighty flicks open their top of their skull and shoves an absurdly large tome into their head? And maybe so. Do I believe that there are individuals out in the world that think that they've hit that level and are going to disclose it to you if you sign up for their pre-recorded online webinars that are like $649.97 plus tax? Fuck yeah, I do. Because I've watched those recordings and also have heard my financial advisor call up his therapist requesting additional sessions. I hope you still got an appetite because we need to figure out where this information is coming from. Or maybe it's better phrased as coming from who? Most secret societies receive their teachings from, I'm just going to check my notes real fast just to make sure I got this right. An ancient secretive brotherhood of spiritual adepts that refer to themselves as the masters. As the philanthropist Exhibit would say, yo, dog, I heard you like secret societies, so I put a secret society within your secret society inside of your secret society. The Matryoshka doll of weirdness will never cease to amaze me in this field of work. They call themselves the Ascended Masters, and they are also the ones who have been paying close attention to my recent comings and goings. Ascended Masters are believed to be spiritually enlightened beings that have had several past incarnations as human beings and eventually achieved a higher state of being. These supernatural beings spread their teachings through selected humans, which they called their students. They've put aside any sort of differences that they may have had while mortal and unite as a joined force to advance spiritual well-being of humanity. That doesn't seem hard at all. Now, does it, members of the U.S. Congress? Among the rankings of the Ascended are Jesus. He's been reincarnated at least 2 times as the Emperor of Atlantis in 33,050 BC and 15,000 BC. And he came back as Joseph of the Coat of Many Colors in 1650 and 1550 BC. I may not be up on my religious knowledge. I thought they made that up to get Donny Osmond to wear a wig. Going on, Buddha, he actually set out on a quest to become an ascended master while a human. Mary Magdalene, and then you've got a fellow by the name of Kuthumi, El Mariah, and Saint Germain. The last 3, and especially Saint Germain, have taken a keen interest in my keen interest into secret societies and came through my energy session to deliver messages. Many creators of secret and magical orders make claims that their information and basic outline for their society came directly from conversations or visions with a particular ascended master. If it was multiple masters, they are generally grouped into a cluster, which is called the Great White Brotherhood or Great White Lodge. And that sounds super sketch in today's current political and societal climate. The white part refers to an advanced level of spirituality among those who have achieved this particular ranking, that they tend to emanate a white-colored aura when visiting their earthbound students. Have you ever noticed that at places that sell strongly scented products like Yankee Candle and perfumeries, that there's always like a little glass jar of coffee beans? You give it a few good huffs, and the old olfactory factory is ready for more scents to bombard it. I discovered through a cursory Google session that shit is all made up, and now I get the ultimate pleasure of informing you of that fact. Coffee doesn't neutralize odors, nor does it sharpen your senses for new smells. It's all a marketing scheme for you to keep sniffing until it looks weird that you're still loitering at the counter and have no real plans on purchasing anything. So all that to say, here's a bit of a coffee bean sniff break for you before our next course comes out, and we're barely just getting started. I need those tummies of yours to be ready to be stuffed with the yummies very, very shortly. We touched on theories that magical orders base themselves off of Hermeticism, Western mysticism, Western mystery tradition, but we haven't broached the subject of religious movements, giving them yet another solid foundation to create and form their ideologies. The earliest movement I was willing to research and present calls itself Rosicrucianism, and it is a culmination of spiritual and cultural movements stemming from anonymous manifestos appearing between 1610 and 1617 in Germany. The first two manifestos lured in those who searched for the promise of a, quote, universal reformation of mankind through the use of science, a novel concept for the time, and was built on esoteric truths of an ancient past, concealed from the average man, providing insight into nature, the physical universe, and the spiritual realm. This promise was kept secret for decades until the intellectual climate seemed ready to receive it, according to said writers of said manifestos. Hast thou smelleth what the rock has cookedeth? That's right. We got ourselves a tasty little secret stockpile of knowledge. 3 more anonymous manifestos were published and circulated from 1614 to 1617, each bringing along with them new and deeper lore of this vast unknown library of untapped potential. One, called the Fama Fraternitatis, told the tale of a German doctor and mystic philosopher by the name of Father Brother CRC, or Christian Rosenkreuz, whose name would go on to shape the movement itself. Father Brother CRC had discovered the alleged Philosopher's Stone, and at the time of its publication was a comfortable 106 years young. But Megan, you say out loud, knowing full well I can't hear you because this is very much a one-way conversation, didn't that one young adult author turned turf warrior write their first full novel around one such stone? Yeah, I say back, they did. And then I'll point out how easy it is to cleverly use pronouns as a way to continue tarnishing the legacy of that particular individual by not actually mentioning them by name. Get fucking bent, JK. The Philosopher's Stone is yet another metaphor. Fucking John Green. God damn it. This is my fucking podcast. Get out of here. It's another metaphor for transmuting our measly little meat sacks into beings of spiritual divinity through a serious study of the mysterious applications of birth, death, and resurrection. Once one is able to figure that simple math problem out, then bada boom, baby, you found yourself the key to eternal life. More manifestos kept manifesting. And most of them were not taken as seriously as one would have thought, which, like, shocker, right? They were regarded as an elaborate hoax. God, what the fuck did people do before the internet existed? Or as grand allegorical statements about the world around them. But we don't care about what that sector of the population thought. We are here to focus on those who did. And those are the ones twiddling their feet with glee about the declaration of the existence of a secret brotherhood of alchemists and sages. We're going to fast forward a little bit to the United States in the late 19th century, which is our favorite time period on the podcast. A new growing religious movement by the name of Theosophy is sweeping the spiritualism world. You may recall the briefest of mentions of Theosophy in episode 4 during the Cottingley Fairies part, the one where the girl's mother attended a theosophical meeting and brought the alleged photographs of fairy interactions with her. Verifying the existence of fairies is just one small aspect of the greater theosophical movement. Its founder, Helena Blavatsky, spread the message to her new followers of an ancient secretive brotherhood of spiritual adepts known as the Masters that can be found around the world, but primarily they like to kick it in Tibet. Blavatsky was prompted to initiate this movement through the Masters giving her the teachings through various spiritual communication techniques like channeling, and visions. Their main goal, after blowing up and acting like they don't know nobody, was to revive the knowledge of an ancient religion that was once found all around the world and that would eventually come to eclipse all existing world religions. That just sounds so familiar, and it's on the tip of my tongue what that could be, and like my brain knows it, but my mouth is like, it can't form the shape around the word. This reminds me of going to Olive Garden and getting their never-ending pasta bowls and always choosing the same sauce, but switching up the noodles each round. Bitch, it's still pasta with marinara. You're not reinventing the wheel here. Theosophy based itself on three main principles. 1, to form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color. 2, to encourage the study of comparative religion, philosophy, and science. And 3, to investigate unexplained laws of nature and powers latent in man. Sign me the fuck up. That sounds amazing. Both Rosicrucianism and Theosophy relied heavily on the ascended masters carrying the absolute fuck ton of the movement on their shoulders. The more their members worked and perfected themselves, the more opportunities and chances one had of the Great White Brotherhood noticing them blazing a trail and then getting that tap by one of them to embark on an apprenticeship. Theosophy really didn't branch out past its own boundaries, as earlier movements tended to do. Rosicrucianism gave way to the first of many secret societies, but one in particular became yet another foundational group for others to form their ideologies and philosophies on, namely the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was a secret society devoted to the study and practice of occult hermeticism and metaphysics. Its founders were brought up either as Freemasons or Societas Rosicrucians, and they broke off on their own path either by the urging of other members or finding that the box that they were placed in didn't quite fit their own personal agendas. William Wynne Westcott, one of the founders of Golden Dawn, attested that the foundational documents came from something called the cipher manuscripts, and he alone was the one that ultimately decoded them in 1887, discovering within them that they gave incredibly specific outlines of the grades and rituals that would come to form the order. Westcott also claimed he found the home address, because if you're going to put something in there, put in your own address, I guess. Found the home address of one Anna Sprengel in the manuscripts, and he wrote to her. She wrote back, and finding out through multiple correspondences that this German countess had the ability to contact supernatural entities called the secret chiefs, and was also an incredibly prominent Rosicrucian. The strangest part of all that, pick one, throw a dart. Anna Sprengel doesn't exist. To some, it was almost like Westcott made her up to claim legitimacy over the Golden Order and assert his power as the head of the group. I mean, the man had letters from her that said something like, "I'm totally real, and I found statements saying William is the head of this whole thing, of this totally real secret group." He decoded the goddamn cipher manuscripts. He'd have absolutely no reason to make up such a ludicrous claim for authority. In 1892, another co-founder, Samuel Little Mathers, made the grand proclamation that he too had been given direct communication to the secret chiefs. So suck on that one, William Westcott. It wasn't until 1896 or 1897 when Westcott suddenly broke all ties to the Golden Order. Well, Jinky Scoob, what happened there? Maybe someone found out about Anna Sprangel's lack thereof being? Or maybe it was because he left a large number of occult-related papers in the back of a hansom cab, and when those papers were ultimately discovered, Westcott's connection to a super-secret society was unearthed, and he was given the choice to resign from the Golden Order or quit his day job as a coroner, because his bosses totally knew what he was getting up to after hours. Please, Lord baby Jesus, I hope it was all done after hours. The Golden Dawn is actually the first of 3 orders, and they are all conveniently collectively called Golden Dawn. The first order taught esoteric philosophy, practiced the art of personal development through the study and awareness of the 4 classical elements, the basic tenets of astrology, tarot divination, and geomancy, which is the art of studying patterns and layouts of geographic features, like how rocks are positioned in or shifts in sand waves. The second order focused on teaching magical techniques such as scrying, astral travel, and alchemy. The third order consisted of highly skilled members that actually directed the activities of the lower 2 rankings via spirit connection with the secret chiefs. The secret chiefs were considered to be the authority figures over any magical order or esoteric organization and claimed to have supernatural abilities.
Would the lady like to try the rotini or angel hair pasta with marinara for this round? Shall we be needing any more breadsticks, another bowl of salad with uncomfortably warm plates? Because, as you know, when you're here, you're obviously talking about the Ascended Masters.
The grades one achieves in the Golden Order pair up with the positions within the Tree of Life. See, we do use information that we learned from the beginning of the episode in different parts of the episode. To move up to the next grade within the order, one had to pass a written exam and demonstrate certain skills to gain admission. I had a bitch of a time trying to get into my German courses in college than in this system. They should update that thing in the universities. If you were hoping to start off at the bottom level of the Golden Order and steadily work your way up, I've got some bad news for you, pal. There are no surviving temples that were chartered under the original lineage since the 1970s. A member of the Hermetic Order eventually did branch off to create his own magical system based on Western esoteric and occult traditions, and to put his own unique spin on it. The inspiration for his system was dictated to him by a non-corporeal entity. Oh my God, what a crazy coincidence. The Magical Order of Thelema, founded by Aleister Crowley, focused on the concept of discovering and following one's true will. This true will was a divine and individual purpose that transcended any and all ordinary earthly desires and wishes. The supernatural entity that appeared to Crowley while he was on his honeymoon in Cairo, Egypt, went by the name of Aiwass. Aiwass needed Crowley to dictate what would eventually be called the Book of the Law. This would be separated into 3 chapters. Each were written in under an hour, starting at noon on April 8th, 9th, and 10th in 1904. Crowley made sure to assert its legitimacy by stating no forger could have prepared so complex a set of numerical and literal puzzles, and I, daring to snatch credit for these, dared no wise to lay claim to have touched the Book of the Law, not with my littlest fingertip. Now, I've never been given directives to create my own instructional manual, but I would add a few spot the differences and maybe like word searches every so often to make some sort of like occult highlights for adults. I don't know. Someone get on that. I will. Coming soon to the merch store, occult highlights for adults. Thelema can be boiled down to three main points of ethics. 1, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. 2, every man and every woman is a star. And 3, love is the law, love under will. So let's break those down into more manageable, chewable pieces. Yes? Do what thou wilt implies that Thelemites should be seeking out and following their truest path, known as their true will. Every individual has a true will and can be considered that's their calling or their purpose in life. To take on a spiritual quest of finding out what you're meant to do and then actually act upon it is known as the great work. Crowley pushed for his followers to not blindly follow teachings that are given to them, as he had no interest to found a flock of sheep. Fascinating. Every man and every woman is a star was inspired by one's body of light, which was thought to be made of the same composition as the stars in the sky. Just like the stars in the sky, independent from one another, but still tangentially held together, followers of true will are also occupying a time and position in space while continuing to maintain their own independence or influence from others. Love is the law, love under will represents overall unity, a love for humanity, a love for God, and a love for God loving humanity. That feels like it would be placed on a poorly constructed wall decoration one would buy from Hobby Lobby that someone's mom has in their kitchen next to a sign that says peace, love, and bacon grease. Magic, spelled with a K, so M-A-G-I-C-K, was the central practice of Thelema. And why is it important that Crowley distinguishes his magic from magic? Well, his definition only involved occult practices, and he wanted to keep that separate from what he considered to be stage magic. One aspect that the Thelemite magician needed to strive for, the ultimate goal, was to obtain knowledge and maintain an open conversation with their holy guardian angel. I guess I wouldn't consider Thelema to be a secret society, as Crowley encouraged fellow Thelemites and aspirants to document all magical occurrences and events in a journal. So I would maybe place this squarely into that of a magical order or a magical society. And we'll find out soon enough, Crowley was not shy in the slightest about being literally and figuratively balls deep in Thelema. You're probably wondering if Thelema was the only magical society Aleister Crowley was associated with after bouncing from the Hermetic Order, and au contraire, mon frère. Third time's a charm with this guy. Thelema was the pinnacle of Crowley's achievements, but he needed to dip his tootsies into the occult world somehow by taking control of one established organization and then forming another one. The Ordo Templi Orientis was an occult secret society and hermetic magical organization that appeared in the early 20th century. In 1925, Crowley assumed control, and OTO changed drastically upon that power move. The initiation rituals were rewritten to exclude a majority of the ties OTO had to its masonry roots, and Crowley began testing out a new guiding philosophy that would eventually morph itself into Thelema's three main points of ethics. Crowley took a step back in 1942, appointing one Karl Germer as his successor. Germer had recently immigrated to America after a brief stint of 7 months in the German concentration camp of Esterwagen. Esterwagen was where so-called political enemies of the Third Reich tended to find themselves. Within OTO is another organization, MMM, and these are separated by a series of dots in the shape of triangles, and MMM stands for Mysteria Mystica Maxima, which was the original working title for Benson Boone's Moonbeam Ice Cream song, whatever the fuck that is. There are two core areas of ritual activity in the OTO and the MMM. The first is an initiation into the mysteries and celebrations of the Gnostic Mass, a public celebration of Thelema, culminating in a version of a Eucharistic sacrament. The second is a ritual that celebrates the mysteries found in Thelema and the union of the individual soul with the divine absolute. Seems easy enough to check that all off to get the all-access club pass and the perks that go along with it. Just like with the Golden Order, membership is based on a series of initiation ceremonies called degrees that use ritual drama to establish fraternal bonds between members, impart spiritual and philosophical teachings. If there was one thing Aleister Crowley loved, it was drugs and a flair for the dramatic. While Thelema was in its infancy stage, Crowley decided that one magical organization just wasn't enough, and in 1907 devised AA. Again, this is a dot in the shape of a triangle, a dots in the shape of a triangle. AA emphasized the practices of meditation, ritual magic, the invocation of knowledge, and the importance of communicating with a holy guardian angel. How is this any different from Thelema? Will keep me awake for at least the next decade. Crowley said that he received the authority to create this order from Aiwass, and oh my God, other secret chiefs of the planetary spiritual order. Not to quote SpongeBob, but is anyone else hearing the "you got your toothpaste in my peanut butter, you got your peanut butter in my toothpaste" line on repeat right about now? Members of the First Order must openly declare to everyone, everywhere, their connection to AA. And that has to be fucking fun at parties. Like, hey, are you in line for the bath? I am one of the First Order of AA, and I am sworn to advise you of that fact. Jeez, I'm going to go piss outside in the bushes. Thanks, though. Adepts are required to work in complete silence, and members only know those directly above and below them in the chain of instruction. No sneaking any peeks into rooms or meetings where you don't recognize a single person. The only strict and inviolable rule for every member of every grade: never accept payment or other considerations for initiation or other services upon pain of irredeemable expulsion. Someone slips you $20 for a job well done on your last ceremonial magical ritual, and the next time you're attending a meeting, you get the whole "she doesn't even go here" treatment. Fucking brutal, man. I'm glad that we found the time and are enjoying this delightful dinner together, because we're reaching the final course. Desserts. You definitely earned your Clean Plate Club entry this time and deserve a treat for being such a good eater boy. And what exactly are we having for dessert? I've asked the chef to create for us out of marzipan and various objects life-size replicas of the three main figures of magical and secret societies: Alpheus Levi, Helena Blavatsky, and Aleister Crowley. So go take a lap, do some stretches, and clear some space in your mind gut, because these three are one-of-a-kind snacks. Born Alphonse Louis Constant in 1810, Alpheus Levi would abandon all trains of thought in regards to his career of entering the Catholic priesthood in his mid-20s to become a ceremonial magician. We've all been there. We've all been there. You hit 25 and you go, fuck it, I gotta be a magician. Why do you think I look like this? Can you imagine the whiplash that occurred at the family dinner when he announced that decision? He dipped out of the priesthood just 1 week before being ordained. And that's what we call an 11th hour decision in my in my field of expertise. His transition back into civil life was a bit rough, and Levi continued to wear clerical clothes from 1836 to 1844. When he turned 40, Levi professed his knowledge of the occult. He was deep in the trenches of a financial and spiritual crisis, and he found total refuge and comfort in the 19th century esotericism and occult teachings. By 1860, Levi began writing down the history of magic and published The Key to the Great Mysteries in 1861. This was one of the first complete theses of magic of significant renown. Levi made a divisive split from spiritualism and actually criticized it in most of his writings, which was a wild take to have in the same time frame as the spiritualist movement that is literally sweeping across the continent. He never pretended to be an initiate of any ancient or fictitious secret society, yet he continued to incorporate and integrate different aspects of magic and magical processes into his writings. Levi had a deep and lasting impact on the magical components of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and then the future teachings of both Helena Blavatsky and Aleister Crowley. He also left his mark in his legacy of many young wannabe anarchists with access to a half-full can of spray paint. Alpheus Levi was the first to openly declare that the pentagram with 1 point down and 2 points up represented evil, while a pentagram with 1 point up and 2 points down represented God. Feel free to use this knowledge to find and correct your local use graffiti skills with that little tidbit. Helena Blavatsky's influence continues to ripple through modern occult and esoteric practices, even a century and a quarter after her death. The only tricky part of researching her background, she falsified accounts of her own life and deliberately spoke and wrote in contradictory statements, so everything presented here comes with its own custom grain of salt. In her early life, Blavatsky was described as, quote, a petted, wayward invalid child who was entirely a beguiling storyteller. That is never a good sign when discussing someone who's influential. Her interest in Western esotericism developed in her teen years after she experienced multiple visions of a mysterious Indian man. Later in life, she would claim to have her own version of a meet cute with said mystery Indian man while visiting London, and he would go on to encourage her to travel to Tibet to meet her colleagues and mentors El Moraya and Master Kuthumi. Yes, those names do in fact ring a very large and very noticeable bell. In 1858, Helena moved back in with her family. Again, we've all been there, and began to experience a plethora of rappings and creakings that would follow her throughout the house, and wrote down many accounts of watching large pieces of furniture move on its own. All I'm going to say is, the Fox sisters did it first, and they did it better. She came fully into her paranormal abilities after being bucked off a horse, and remaining in a coma for several months. Traveling to Tibet to meet with the masters helped her to control and understand her new psychic powers. She began her mission of proving to the world that the phenomena identified by and with spiritualists was objectively real and tangible, and she defended spiritualists against accusations of fraudulent activity. What I would give to put Helena Blavatsky and Harry Houdini in an empty room together with no furniture and a single baby monitor. Oh my God. I'm actually lightheaded with that thought. That is such a, oh my God. Well, in 1875, she co-founded the Theosophical Society, describing the movement as a synthesis of science, religion, and philosophy that revived an ancient wisdom that underlaid all world religions. She would find herself accepting an invitation to meet with the Society for Psychical Research in 1883 in London, and complied with their request to undergo a study of her alleged abilities. It was suggested by her and others that spent time with her that she sometimes spoke or wrote while in various altered states of consciousness, opening up that supposed doorway to the ascended masters to send her more information. Blavatsky wasn't entirely enthused or impressed with SBR, mockingly referring to them as the Spookical Research Society. And your mama fat too. Just a short and quick 2 years later, SPR released their findings on Helena and accused her of being a Russian spy and also faking her paranormal phenomena. She published her own work, the Book of Dizian, that outlined her cosmological ideas about how the universe, the planets, and human species came to exist. Because are you truly a leader of a societal religious movement without at least one published work under your belt? Helena Blavatsky contracted influenza in 1891 and died on May 8th. Her followers have renamed that day of her passing as White Lotus Day, and it is celebrated through meditating on the metaphor of the lotus flower. In her will, Helena requested that her friends gather on the anniversary of her death and read certain passages from her favorite works, and an abnormal amount of lotuses grew a year later, giving inspiration to the day's name. Her biographer, Peter Washington, noted that Blavatsky was, quote, an eccentric who abided by no rules except her own, and that, quote, she talked incessantly in a guttural voice, didn't give a hoot for anyone or anything. Two things in all the chaos of her cosmos stood firm in every mood: that her teachers existed and that she had not cheated. The jury's still out on whether or not she was a Russian spy, though. Her general appearance was, quote, outrageously untidy. She wore mostly loose robes and multiple rings on her fingers. She was a short, stout, forceful woman with strong arms, several chins, unruly hair, determined mouth, large, liquid, slightly bulging eyes. I need a verbal and written confirmation from anyone listening to this right now to never, ever, never describe me in such great and awful detail posthumously, or fuck it, prehumously. And now for the creme de la creme of the occult world, Aleister Crowley. I just want to get it out of the way now. I am in no way condoning any of the actions in regard to the particular kind of magic he promoted. I just think that some things were misconstrued due to a lack of context, and his enjoyment of, this is not the right word for it, rubbing societal norms the wrong way. Any whoozleby, let's get to the meat of the matter of this mini biography. Aleister Crowley was born in 1875 to a fairly well-off English parents. He had an incredibly strained relationship with his mother, as she constantly referred to him as the Beast, and that was a title he carried with great honor. After his father died of tongue cancer when Aleister was 11, he believed that that was a turning point in his young life, and his view of the world became more askew and more volatile. He became increasingly more and more skeptical about Christianity during his school-age years and gained a reputation that would follow him for the rest of his life. That reputation was one of a notorious drug user, bisexual, and social critic. While attending college, Crowley dabbled with the prospect of becoming a professional chess player and making that his lifelong career. Unfortunately for him, he was expelled from Cambridge for, contracting gonorrhea from a local prostitute. For the first time. Now, here's a fun game you could play. Take a shot every time Aleister Crowley either finds out he has an STD or does drugs in the next 10 minutes. I will get poison control on the line for you because you will need your stomach pumped. December 1896 would mark his first significant mystical experience while on holiday. Coincidentally, this was around the same time he would experiment with a same-sex encounter and enter one of many, many same-sex partnerships. His holiday would be cut short because of a pesky case of syphilis that reared its ugly head after a night with, another prostitute. A bout of illness in October of 1897 would trigger deep considerations of his own mortality and what he called the futility of all human endeavors. I mean, we've all been there once or twice when we're super sick. Like, you can only watch so much Price is Right before you contemplating what the fuck you were put on this fucking cursed fucking earth for in the first fucking place. And then one of your nostrils suddenly opens up and you have hope back into your wretched, godforsaken soul. Crowley threw all thoughts of being a diplomat into the trash and turned his keen eye towards the occult. He would be initiated into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn by the group's leader on November 18th, 1898, and took on the name of Frater Puradabo, interpreted by him as Brother I Shall Endure to the End. Personally, I would have gone with Frater cheese sticks or something along those lines, just to kind of let everyone know where my interests lie. It should come as no shock to anybody that Aleister Crowley wasn't the most popular or even remotely tolerated by other members of the Golden Order. His reputation absolutely preceded him, and he would go on to develop the hottest of beefs with other members like Irish poet W.B. Yeats. I can only assume Crowley took a short respite from his adventures with professional sex workers when he met his first wife, Rose Kelly, but I also know that a fork can be found in a kitchen as well. Crowley and Kelly were married in August 1903, Crowley swooping in to prevent Kelly from entering an unwanted arranged marriage. The two of them found themselves in Cairo, Egypt in February of 1904, living their best lives pretending to be a priest and priestess, creating rituals and invoking ancient Egyptian deities in their apartment's newly renovated temple room. My notes here say that Rose was regularly delirious, and I can't figure out if that is code for zooted out of her mind on the choices of drugs or not. It would be in April of that same year that Crowley heard the disembodied voice of Aiwass, the messenger of Horus and his future guardian angel. Aiwass proclaimed Crowley to be humanity's newest prophet. Just an FYI, if you think someone might be on the edge of a mental breakdown or not on this earth because of drugs, do not ever reference them as a future prophet of anything. He was going to be humanity's newest prophet as it began its approach to a new eon. The 20th century marked humanity's entry into the eon of Horus, and they would start to take an ever-increasing control over their own destinies. Over the years, Crowley and family would travel the world in search of answers and take on random quests of spiritual and magical work. He found opium while touring southern China.
And the doctor gave Aaron a serum that he did not recognize, and it turned out to be a form of opium. So Aaron was on opium earlier today, but
still am.
But then you shat yourself uncontrollably.
Yeah.
And said to me a line that I will never forget, which is, "Hey Dan, I just shit myself so bad that I sobered up from the opium."
Made heavy use of hashish during rituals in India and was insistent for some reason that hallucinogenic drugs were absolutely instrumental in his rituals as what he called mystical aids. He believed that drugs allowed him to attain union with what he called the Godhead and what I would call chasing the dragon. By 1907, Crowley's inheritance was dwindling, and God forbid he don't have his magical aids. He began taking on paying students that he instructed in occult and magical practices and hired himself out to protect the Earl of Tankerville from witchcraft. He and Rose divorced in 1909 due to her increasing alcoholism and his own admitted adultery. I love that he drew the line at her becoming addicted to a vice like alcohol. His ties to Satanism would begin to enter the cultural lexicon after an experience in November of 1909. This is verbatim from the Wikipedia article about Crowley. Quote, following a mountaintop sex magic ritual, Crowley also performed an evocation to the demon Coranzon involving a blood sacrifice and considered the results to be a watershed in his magical career, unquote. Crowley lived for this shit. He played up the sensationalist imagery and stereotypes of being a Satanist. That childhood nickname, the Beast? Oh yeah, let's bring that with a fiery vengeance and see where that gets us. He would go on to be, quote, considered one of the most blasphemous and cold-blooded villains of modern times. He didn't accept the worldview that Satan existed in and never outright considered himself to be a Satanist. He continued to use the imagery because of the outbursts it created, sending out what he called anti-Christmas cards to friends, family members, and outspoken critics. Crowley set his satanic sights on America and sailed to our shores on the RMS Lusitania, October of 1914. Did that name ring a bell for any other history nerds out there? Because your spidey senses are correct. That is the same Lusitania that would be torpedoed by German U-boats on May 7th, 1915. April 1916, Crowley took what he called a magical retirement, which probably just meant he didn't have enough hours in the day to satisfy his intense drug use. In a line that I want tattooed on me permanently, because this series of words has never been strung together before in human history. Aleister Crowley experimented with peyote in Detroit, motherfucking Michigan. On a magical retreat to the Hudson River Valley, Crowley did several past life regressions and discovered that one of those lives was Alphaeus Levi. How convenient for legitimizing any claims to being the head of a magical organization. America didn't sit well in Crowley's soul, so he returned to London in 1920. There, the asthma that had plagued him his entire life was exacerbated for some unknown reason. Definitely not any of the drugs he was on, surely. And his doctor prescribed him a new medicinal regimen of heroin. Imagine the surprise and shock of his close friends and family when Alistair became overwhelmingly addicted to it. Needing a new vista to bliss out upon, Crowley moved and joined a commune in Palermo, Italy, and indulged himself with visits to rent boys and trips to Sicily to buy supplies. And by supplies, I mean copious amounts of drugs you can snort up your nose. He attempted to give up heroin in 1923 while visiting Tunisia and was shockingly unsuccessful. Running out of ideas and probably potential drug dealers, Crowley traveled to Lisbon, Portugal to fake his own death, as one does. While living the life of a dead man, Crowley continued to socialize with his friends, holding, quote, curry parties in which he cooked particularly spicy food for them. The way I need a time machine immediately. He made a miraculous recovery to the surprise of no one and began to take notice of the rise of Nazism in Germany at the beginning of World War II. Crowley, like most likely under the influence of a few pounds of cocaine, believed that he could convert one Adolf Hitler into joining Thelema. At the same time he was having these thoughts, the Nazis abolished and disbanded the Ordo Templi Orientis branch in Germany and tossed future OTO leader Karl Germer into a concentration camp. No longer Mr. fucking nice guy, Crowley publicly outed Hitler as a black magician and banned him from OTO and Thelemic practices. First, you're kicked out of art school, and now this? When will the injustices cease for you, Hitler? Crowley dabbled momentarily with associating himself with the British intelligence agency because remember when he almost became a political diplomat? He found himself mingling with the likes of one Roald Dahl and an Ian Fleming. Those fucking bozos wouldn't amount to jack shit later on in life. By 1940, Crowley had undergone 3 nasal cavity reconstruction surgeries due to his overuse of cocaine, and even worse for him, his German-crafted medication for his asthma wasn't being distributed due to that pesky little World War II, so his doctor had no choice but to prescribe him heroin once again to open up those wheezy little lungs of his. And wouldn't you know it, he became unreasonably addicted to it once again. Crowley exited his mortal coil December 1st, 1947, after a swan dive into an Olympic-sized swimming pool full of cocaine went terribly awry. Wait just a moment, hold on. I'm sorry, guys. There is just a smudge on my notebook. He died of chronic bronchitis aggravated by pleurisy and myocardial degeneration, age 72. You're telling me that this man inhaled more drugs than Tony Montana sold in his entire life and died from coughing so hard his heart gave out? The Lord truly works in deep and mysterious ways that I will never begin to understand or fully comprehend. Aleister Crowley's mission in life, aside from trying to convert any and all cells in his body into microscopic snus containers, was to bring, quote, Oriental wisdom to Europe and restore paganism in a purer form. Yeah, you would want a purer form, wouldn't you, pal? He believed magic was a bridge between religion and science, a concept that we've seen in previous iterations of magical and secret societies. Being as progressive as one could be during the context of the early 1900s, Crowley preached that magic had to be adapted and evolve to suit the growing new age of science and its discoveries. The component of sex and sexuality in Thelema was seen as integral to its inner workings and was treated as a sacrament to its followers and practitioners. I'm going to give you a moment to explore your own mind palace to interpret exactly what that means. Crowley was described as having both an unappeasable desire to take control of any organization he belonged to and the tendency to quarrel savagely with anyone who challenged him. I think you would find the current year of 2025 to be right up his alley. He was self-confident, brash, eccentric, egotistic, highly intelligent, arrogant, witty, wealthy, and when it suited him, cruel. Incredibly capable of immense physical and emotional cruelty, blind arrogance, petty fits of bile, and utter contempt for the abilities of his fellow men. Okay, I know Crowley would be the perfect fit in 2025 society. Get him a massive social media following, and we've got ourselves our next golden calf. If a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? If a society claims to be secret and keeps information inaccessible from the fully initiated, does my ability to look it up on Wikipedia make it public knowledge? Does having a Facebook page to promote upcoming Gnostic masses to the general population mean that we are now adepts in the local chapter of the Ordo Templi Orientis? If we attend one, if I buy a copy of the Book of the Law, does that mean I've paid someone for their service of publishing it? And do they face irredeemable expulsion from Thelema? I've barely scratched the surface of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the concept of secret orders and magical societies. The literal internet rabbit hole I went on while researching goes to prove that theory. I was clicking on so many hyperlinks within hyperlinks that Google Chrome had a pop-up that said something along the lines of, holy fucking Christ, how many fucking tabs do you have open right now? And I was developing a distinct slant in my posture from lugging around 1 pound, 11 ounces of printouts. That's right, folks. I commandeered the baby scale at work to weigh that shit. That is not including any of my own handwritten notes, crazed scribbles on Post-it notes, and scraps of scratch paper. The way I am positive I am on several, if not dozens, of watch lists for the insane Google searches I was making over the past couple of weeks. I am shocked I haven't been followed by unmarked vehicles from my work to my house and my house to my work. And the fact that I haven't received threats in unlabeled packages in mail addressed to me, crazy. The fact that I'm still, for now, talking about it means that maybe the stigma surrounding secret societies has lessened since their inceptions. The one thing that continues to keep me up at night is the fact that I managed to tip off the right people on the other side and get ascended masters to take notice of me. My energy sessions with Michelle have evolved over the years from a few quick paragraphs of get your fucking shit together or else messages from my guides and random interlopers to now 3 to 5 double-sided pages of printed material full of messages, pictures, and directives. I actually, I pulled out the notes from that particular session involving the aforementioned Ascended Masters, and I've decided that if I ever need an ego boost, I'm going to just read their messages over and over again. This is what they had to say. You are not meant to be a biographer. You are meant to be a translator and a demonstrator. Your podcast is the platform, but the real work is you acting as a living bridge. You take their pure high-frequency energy and you step it down through your own lived experiences, your challenges, your joys, your doubts, into practical, usable wisdom. Stop studying us like historical figures. We are living frequencies. Speak not about our past, but from our presence within you. The research is the door. Your voice is the key turning in the lock. The Ascended Masters are not a historical curiosity. They are a present and active force of evolution. Knowing what I know now, how many grades in each order did I skip to get to the open communication with holy guardian angels, supernatural being stage of my spiritual journey? Does this mean I am a high-level member of a secret society that even I don't know I'm in? Do I get a fun outfit to wear at meetings? Is my podcast a secret society? Have I been in a secret society this entire time? I'm fucking spiraling, guys. Oh boy. Yeah. Smell you later, I guess. Oh, bye. Thank you for sticking around. Those who watch the YouTube video, this is not going to be the normal getup. Those who do not watch it on YouTube and listen to it audio based, I'm going to post a screenshot just to let you know what I am currently vibing out as on screen. Couple of things. I have a Patreon now. I've got a couple of different levels of membership. Each come with a various perk. I'm going to start a Discord channel soon. A Twitch channel. So I'm going to start streaming, me doing research, me editing, just kind of, scheduled hangouts. One of the perks, if you join as a paid member, I think the tiers are $5, $15, and $25 a month. You will get early access to the episodes before I post them to like Spotify and YouTube and all that stuff. You'll get an email and you get to listen to them before everybody else, and some other special perks. So if you are interested, it is Paranormal Potpourri Podcast on Patreon. I also have a link on the old good socials. Couple of appearances coming up. October 18th, I will be at the Manitowoc Spirit Fair and Metaphysical Fair with Be Well Naturally. I will have my own little table. I have some stickers. I've got some paranormal equipment. And most importantly, I have me. And I want to hear your stories. I want to hear experiences. I am here to answer any and all your questions. Whether the answers are real, that's for you to determine. October 25th, I will be voluntarily going to Marinette, Wisconsin. If anyone is listening who's from that area, I love you. But you know why. I will be giving a talk from 11 to 12:30 p.m. at the Stevenson Library in Marinette on just paranormal stuff. So that'll be fun. I need to build my presentation. And just as a constant reminder, April of 2026, I will have a vendor table at Potograph's Parafast 7 for Mr. Murray's birthday bash. Very excited about that. Karaoke's coming back. Holla if you remember last year. And other than that, follow me on Facebook, Paranormal Potpourri Podcast. That's on Instagram too. YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Please like, comment, subscribe, leave a review, get the word out. I try to shamelessly promote, and I am just one woman doing her best. Maybe more costumes to come. Maybe that'll entice people. But other than that, peace.